Welcome back to another rendition of our World's Draft Analysis, and today we'll be breaking down the latest elimination set in the play-in stage, where we have the Battle of the West. North America's Evil Geniuses take on Europe's Mad Lions. This series absolutely brought on some heat from both sides, and I think one thing to note here with this series is that both teams are at a level of play that allows them to be able to play multiple styles, and we therefore pretty much unlock the full potential of compositions that we've come to see from the World's meta so far. What's great about best of fives is that this shows us the evolution of drafts and allows teams to do some specific preparation against each other, therefore allowing us to see some tech picks or bans to compensate. As always though, if this content was helpful to you guys, would love a sub to support the channel. Let's hop into the draft. Do know that I'll be breaking down just game 3 of this draft, as this is where EG were able to completely adapt to what Mad is trying to bring to the table, and it's a great example of how they're willing to shift their priorities in order to shut them down. This all starts off with the first phase bans. Note that EG specifically banned out the tech Belveth that Mad has been so successful on. They don't want to deal with the alternative pacing that this champion offers, and it's a good use of the ban. Seraphine and Gnar prevent neutralizing picks on top and bottom side, and gives room for Cowardly to properly flex his strengths in lane, while the Gnar ban basically forces Mad to use their third ban on Aatrox, being the most successful matchup into it. In addition, Mad have banned out Maokai and Yuumi, preventing strong blinds for EG in the B1 to B3. After the bans, notable open picks are the entire jungle pool, a few hard hitters in mid like LeBlanc, Sylas, and Azir, and a myriad of picks in the bot lane, although they typically aren't prioritized at this stage in the draft. Keep in mind that one of the biggest fundamentals in draft is understanding the snake format that it follows and keeping your options as open as possible before committing to a specific style. This could mean the way your team composition functionally fights, what type of game pacing you want in the game, and so on. This is probably what's fueling the B1 Sejuani here from EG, which isn't what you would normally expect. Although she isn't the highest priority champion in the game right now, she's a great example of what I mean by this concept, since she can slot herself well into a wide variety of drafts, and this gives EG flexibility to put her in both top and jungle, meaning they effectively show nothing about their composition realistically. With the exception of a few champions, there are very few priority picks in the meta right now, and we are actually in a red side favored meta generally speaking. Since there's such a crazy diversity of different champions and comp styles available, teams have a lot of options to actually checkmate teams depending on the phase. Although red side naturally has more opportunities to counter, we've seen this occur on both sides, and a lot of teams in Worlds right now have still been fumbling that. For the R1, R2, Mad take Kalista and Graves. Kalista is generally one of those examples I just mentioned where she can break the rule that I just mentioned. She's got an extremely high pick ban presence in Worlds right now, because in the hands of pro players at this level, she's pretty damn oppressive. The Graves has arguably been one of the stronger picks in jungle right now, as he can command space in every matchup. EG has options to either match Sejuani into it, or take another matchup and pivot to a facilitator champion, moving Sedge to top if the matchup seems okay. In the B2-B3, EG actually swing for the Aphelios Braum in order to neutralize the Kalista. This is because, as strong as she is, Kalista is relatively one-dimensional as a very aggressive and forward champion, so this bot lane combination from EG gives them a ton of room to neutralize the laning phase and also stabilize a lot of fights. Keep in mind that both of these picks are not normally taken under most circumstances as well. Severum is great for laning phase, and Gravidum can be extremely painful for Kalista in that matchup specifically. Now, aware of the bottom lane pick, Mad opt to use their R3 to get as good of a matchup into those two champions as possible, or else the support pool will get choked. Normal engaged champions that pair with Kalista here are pretty bad into Braum, so Mad have to pick a champion that can outscale the Braum or maneuver around it. If I am Mad at this point, the easiest way to overcome this is to outrange the Aphelios Braum, and now pivot the draft towards that. The main issue is that the Kalista pick keeps that relatively narrow, so this could be a decent read on the meta by EG, and it could indicate that Kalista might not be as strong here as we think. Renata is the pick that can sort of meet the best of both worlds here. Moving on to the second phase of bans, this dynamic I explained earlier is continued into the bans, and both teams are pretty much set on removing things that would round out their compositions. EG remove the prominent beefy frontliners on top side, as Mad currently don't have any of that in their comp, while Mad remove other strong team fighters that help aid the Aphelios Braum combo. The Akali ban doesn't necessarily mean this, but it seems that Mad want to do this to prepare for a certain matchup in R4. Victor is the blind here for Niski, and it's as standard of an option as you can go for. It's pretty decent in most situations, but I believe what Mad needs in this composition is to really capitalize on the weaknesses of EG's draft. Victor does alright, but pretty much plays into how EG also want to play the game in terms of a standard front to back. If Mad continues to handshake it with the bot lane matchup as it is, they're essentially fighting an uphill battle. For the B4-B5, EG round out with LeBlanc and Lee Sin, giving them a good mid-jungle duo to help stabilize the other lanes. Note that they did opt to put Sejuani topside at this point, since they did remove some bad frontline matchups for Sedge. This forks Mad into either picking a good matchup but a bad champion for their comp, or a good champion for their comp and allowing Sejuani to get away with lane. Mad opts for the former, taking the Gwen R5. It establishes a scaling side lane condition for Mad, but doesn't really solve their problems in fights and lane overall. The Callista pick, although quite strong in the right circumstances, seems to have been prepared for well by EG, and I think Matt took this pick without the preparation, knowing that this would be the counter. From that point on, they were basically drafting on the back foot, and in spite of winning matchups in both sides of the map, the flow of fights overall is likely going to favor EG. Because of this, I actually rate the draft 60-40 in favor of EG, because Matt does have a chance of blowing the game out of the water if top lane gets ahead by a lot, or if EG fumbles a play around mid. As always though, hope this video was insightful to you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay fresh.